Welcome back to the Greenville Chamber's Growing a Greater Greenville podcast. We're excited to continue our Greater Together series on the partnerships that shape Greenville. I'm your host, Carlos Phillips, and today we're sitting down with my friend, Dr. Burke Royster, Superintendent of Greenville County Schools. Before I start, I want to take a moment to thank the sponsors of today's episode, Blue Cross Blue Shield of South Carolina, First National Bank, and Acumen IT. Thank you to these sponsors. All right, Burke, let's jump right in. First, thank you for being on the podcast with us today. You're a superintendent of the Greenville County Schools, but I'm sure that wasn't your first job, your first professional job out of college. Please give our listeners a little insight into your path to becoming the superintendent of Greenville County Schools.
Sure. First, good morning, Carlos, and thank you for this opportunity to talk with folks about Greenville County Schools, and more importantly, to the point of your podcast, partnerships that are helping us to positively shape the future in Greenville County. As you indicated, I didn't just start out being a superintendent. You mentioned my first professional job, but I actually started a little bit before then. High school and college, I worked in the school district's maintenance department. So I've seen kind of things from all sorts of different angles. But I began my professional career as a teacher and a coach. I taught math in a rural school, in a small rural school district in South Carolina, Anderson School District 3. It was a great place to work. I enjoyed it. That's an excellent community to work in, had great students, but it's very different in one respect, being totally a rural district and being very small. The school I was in had about 600 students, but the district didn't have more than 2,000 students in it. So over my career, I've had the good fortune to work in rural, urban, and suburban schools, and now Greenville County Schools, which a little bit unique to school districts in the country. It is a rural, urban, and suburban school district. Actually, my second time through Greenville County. My first administrative job, I was an assistant principal at Montague Middle School. Doesn't exist anymore. People are familiar with Montague Elementary, but there was a middle school there, and I was an assistant principal.
Did you shut it down? Did you shut it down, Burke?
Well, they shut it down, and I saw the opportunity to go to Rock Hill, South Carolina, to be an assistant principal at Northwestern High School, which was a large 4A high school. They're now, 5 classifications a state, that time 4. Left there, got a chance to open a brand new high school as its first principal in Georgetown County, Waccamaw High School. Then Seneca High School as a principal, then an assistant superintendent in the Oconee County School District. And I came here in 2005 as the deputy superintendent. Our system, the person sort of charged with running the day-to-day operations, and then was most fortunate to be selected to be superintendent, succeeding Dr. Finnessy Fisher in 2012. So I'm about to begin my 13th year as superintendent, but had great experiences in a lot of different places, and I can truthfully say that I've enjoyed every job I've had and every place that I've worked. I think that's a great thing to be able to say.
That is, Burke. Thank you for sharing that. And what did you coach? What sport did you coach?
I coached JV football.
Okay. If you could now give us a bit of an overview of Greenville County Schools, help our listeners understand the important role of Greenville County Schools in our community.
Well, first, a little bit about the school district. As I mentioned, we serve an urban, a suburban, and a rural population. We have 78,000 students. We are the 44th largest school district in the United States. And to give you kind of your listener sort of an idea of the size of that, they're close to 14,000 school districts in America. So you can imagine, if we're the 44th largest, the size of most of those that are smaller than we are. Now, there's some that are much larger than we are that are in the top 12 or 20 in that range as far as student size. We have about 12,000 employees serving those students, and we like to look at what we do is helping to ensure that we are providing students with the sound foundation that they need to have to be successful as individuals, but also that foundation they need to have to contribute to the overall success and health, both economic health and in other respects, of the community that we live in. So that's I think, a very challenging task. And back to the subject of your podcast, one that we can do best when we work in partnership with others. That partnership being the families of the students that we serve, the business and industry in the community which we work, and other governmental and nonprofit organizations. All of us working towards that common goal of helping to ensure that we have the kind of community that we all want to be a part of and that we want to live in.
And I have to say, Dr. Royster, that my two youngest children graduated from Greenville County high schools, Malden High School. And we moved here from Kentucky, and they had a great experience there at Malden High School. And it's really their experience is a testament to your leadership of the school district. So I want to thank you for that.
Well, I appreciate that, Carlos, but I would advance to say that it's, the folks there at that school that are doing a great job. But we have people in schools all over the district that do a great job. I believe what's most important, you didn't necessarily share that, but I will. I think it was extremely important to you when you were considering opportunities that you had, that you came to a community with a solid education system. And that is, I believe, so key to attracting growth in our community for individuals like you and others who are considering making a move. That's one of the first things that people look at that have a family. And we take very seriously the responsibility of ensuring that we have that kind of quality system that will enable people to feel good about moving here with children.
Yeah, it worked out great for our family and for our kids. And again, thank you for your leadership. Speaking of people moving here, it's projected that a 250,000 new residents will live in Greenville County by 2040. That has huge implications on Greenville County's school district. How are you preparing for that growth, Dr. Royster?
Well, as you mentioned, there are multiple challenges that are inherent in that level of growth. One of those is to ensure that we have facilities to make certain that we have sufficient space to house the growth in students. Second is to make certain that we have qualified and quality teachers and other employees to serve that growth. It's pretty obvious, I think, to most people that when you have more students come in, you have to have more space for them. Maybe it's not quite as initially obvious, but you also have to have more people to serve. We do almost all of our personnel allocation on ratio. You have so many students, you get a teacher. You have so many students, you get a counselor. You have so many students, you get a clerical person. You get assistant principals. Almost everything is formula driven. So we are constantly, because we're a system of growth, annually we have to add into our budget sufficient funding to add people to meet that growth. That's a short-term, every year need. The only year that has not been true was in the midst of the pandemic, when we temporarily had students that left us, as within a year they came back. That's the only year since I've been in the district, including the depth of the recession in 2010-11. That's the only year that we haven't had to add personnel because we have experienced growth and trying to maintain the ratios that we have in the classroom. Building, that's a longer-term need, but we annually look at growth and patterns of growth. We have a 10-plus year long-range facility plan. If you go on our website, under Planning and Demographics, if you're interested in that, you can see it. But we review it and revise it every year. Our Planning and Demographics staff works closely with county, with city, and through their own studies, look at growth patterns within the county, One thing we're very fortunate with the growth that we have, that it is widespread in the county. Now, there are some pockets that are a little more accelerated than others, but it helps us address it in that it's not concentrated down into one very finite area. It really, to a degree, affects all but the most remote points of the 800 square miles of Greenville County schools.
Thanks for that overview and for your efforts to prepare for that growth.
Blue Cross Blue Shield of South Carolina is a longtime partner of the Greenville Chamber and offers a wide range of health plans and options designed just for Chamber members. Companies with 51 or more employees have access to Chamber Blue, Blue Cross's exclusive portfolio of more than 40 unique health plans, with enhanced office visit copays, access to innovative apps, and more. Blue Cross is the only South Carolina health insurance carrier serving its citizens for more than 75 years. For information about our health plans for Chamber members, call the Greenville Chamber at 864-239-3723.
I know that I have attended and presented at many of your teacher recruitment events. And if I recall correctly, there have been times where even if you hired every teacher who attended that event, you still may fall a little short of your teacher needs. Is that still the case?
Yeah, that's still the case. And of course, that's one of our, we do two of those in-person events, and that's sort of our premier recruiting event, but we also do online recruiting events. We use all sorts of multiple media platforms to recruit people, because to your point, we would never get enough simply from those in-person events, and we struggle now to get enough through all of our efforts. We do not see the same number of people going into teaching as once did. We could hire every graduate of every school of education produced in the state of South Carolina in our district in a year. So that's not sufficient. So we hire, obviously, people graduates from other parts of the country. And interestingly enough, I think probably most people wouldn't realize that the majority of our hires, new employees each year, are not first-year teachers. We are fortunate that we have the ability to attract experienced teachers in addition to first-year teachers. You always want to have a blend. You want to have some people coming in new to the profession. They're going to be with you a while, but you want to have that balanced off by being able to hire some experienced teachers as well.
Good. And just in case there may be some prospective teachers viewing this podcast, there have been some improvements to compensation for those teachers. Am I correct?
Yes, we're among the 3 highest paying districts in the state of South Carolina. Our starting pay for a first-year teacher is just under $48,000. And if you have a PhD or an EDD, a doctorate, and 34 years experience, our salaries for those individuals right over $100,000 a year. So particularly those teachers that are most experienced, if any of them or their family members might be listening to this, we would certainly encourage them to look at opportunities within Greenville County schools, because it not only would have a short-term meaning for them, particularly those most experienced, the system that we have for retirement, that would greatly benefit those individuals in retirement. We also have the ability to move people into teaching that do not have an undergraduate degree in education through our GATE program. We've got about 100 participants in it this year. They're individuals with a 4-year degree. They have subject matter knowledge, and then we help them learn the skills that they need to possess to be a teacher through both classroom instruction and assigning them an experienced teacher as a mentor for 2 years. A pretty high success rate with that. In fact, the retention rate for those individuals exceeds first-year teachers in all the other categories in which we employ them.
That's pretty impressive, Burke. And thank you for your work in increasing teacher pay.
We are most fortunate, Carlos, that our Board of Trustees has been very supportive of that, because there is no way we could have done that without having had very conservative but tax increases. The amount we get from the state would in no way allow us to compensate teachers at that level.
Now, don't say that word too loudly there, Burke. Tax increase. But it is important that you have that so that you can provide the necessary increases for the teacher compensation.
Funding outside of that we would never be at the competitive place we are. And I think that certainly, while no one likes to entertain the idea of a tax increase, I think people in the community, particularly those that have to seek employees, recognize that the vitality of their business or industry is based on recruiting quality people into those jobs. And it's certainly no different in our profession to be able to recruit a quality teacher. There's all kind of research that supports the difference that makes in the education of a student. So while it's something we just have to do, there'd be no way to be where we are today, have the opportunities we have for our students, nor have some of the success that we're able to talk a little bit about without being able to compensate people well. And I think it'd also be reassuring for people to know, because everybody likes to talk about leadership and management and what all that cost and administrative overhead, that we rank dead last in the state of South Carolina, the amount we spend per pupil on district administration and leadership, and we spend less than a penny out of $1 for that purpose. We put our money in the classroom where best it is directly addressing student needs.
Very nice. Very nice. Thank you, Burke. So one of the purposes for this podcast is to talk about partnerships within our community. And one of the things that I'm most proud of in my role here at the Chamber is our partnership with Greenville County Schools. Most notably, our partnership on the LaunchGVL initiative, which is a paid internship program for high school juniors and seniors. You want to please share some thoughts on that program that back in 2018 started with 20 students, and in 2023 over 140 students went through that program. So it's growing at a nice clip. But please share a little bit more about that LaunchGVL initiative and the partnership.
It is, and as you noted, that's a tremendous growth, and it would appear that we're on track right now, halfway through the year, to exceed last year's number. We have been very focused on making certain our students are prepared, college ready, career ready. This cuts across really both, because ultimately, whether you go directly to career or you go through college to career, whether it's 2 or 4 year, you ultimately going to be career. We believe that it is very important for students to have not just the theoretical background in the classroom, not just the lab type experiences that they can have with us inside the system, but to actually be out in the workplace. To give an example to that, you can come to us and you want to be a welder. We're going to put you in the classroom. They're going to teach you the principles of welding. Then you're going to go into one of our welding shops at a career center, and using the same kind of equipment that they use out in business and industry, you're going to weld. Practical application. We want then to be able to offer the next step, that you're actually out there on a job site or in a job setting welding. Although you're expected to weld to a degree of proficiency in our labs, and you have practical assignments to do, that's a very controlled environment. The other thing that's different about it is your teammates, your workforce in that lab, they're all like you. They're 17 years old, 18 years old. That's not true of the workplace. You also, in our lab settings, though there is some interaction with the general public, for example, we have students in cosmetology or barbering. You can go get your hair cut at the Career Center. You could go to the auto shop and get your oil changed, but it's a very controlled interaction with the general public. Well, out in the real working world, there is not that controlled interaction with the general public. and you're working with your teammates who may range in age from 17 to 70 and come from all sorts of background and experiences very different from your classmates, many of whom you already know because you were in high school classes with them, maybe even middle school. Some of them you've been in school with since you were in elementary school. So it is very important to have that real world actual work experience. So we want our students to get the theory, the framework, the foundation, get the practical application, and then go out in the real world and apply it. And the only way we can do that is through the cooperative arrangements and partnerships such as LaunchGVL, where they're actually working in business and industry. Now, we're not asking the business industry to do anything we don't do. For example, we have right now down in our heavy motor shop, we have a diesel mechanics student from one of the career centers working alongside our mechanics in that shop. We've had them in HVAC and maintenance. We've had them in food service. We've had them in communications at the district level. I know the chamber has had interns carrying out various tasks at the chamber that's related to the direction those students believe they want to move in as they get through high school, go to college, or go directly into the workforce.
It's been great. It's been great that they can experience what they think they want to do, either confirm that or, earlier in they can make a decision earlier in their lives that maybe I need to pursue a different path.
And that's a great point that you make, Carlos. It is important for a young person to know what they don't want to do. It's what they do want to do before they get too far down that road and have to redo a lot of things, invest a lot more time. I think it'd be particularly appealing perhaps to their parents, invest more money in going a different direction. Maybe figure that out a little bit sooner. This provides a great place in which to do that.
Let's turn a trip to the branch into a tap on your phone. Let's hit pause on a lost debit card without hitting pause on life. That's how First National Bank is redefining convenience. With a top-rated mobile app that puts more security and control at your fingertips and friendly people to help you succeed right by your side. Let's get started at fnb-online.com or your local First National Bank branch. FNB, member FDIC.
Burke, if you could speak briefly about the importance of the paid aspect of those internships. Why is that so important?
For one, it certainly attracts students. For them to be able to work in the arena in which they wish to have a career, as opposed to just getting a part-time job because they may need to make some money. In some cases, that's to help their family. They're contributing to the family good because they've got a part-time job, working at any number of places. Obviously, a lot of students in fast food, things like that. There's nothing wrong with working there, nothing wrong with working anywhere. But if you can pair this with what you're going to do later on, that's so much more meaningful and helps that student kind of expand. Any work opportunity helps them develop work ethic, work-related skills. But to be able to develop those specifically related to the career you want to pursue, even more important. Some cases, it's just for spending money for things that they wish to have. But it's important that they are compensated for those reasons, and also so that they see the tie between skills and compensation. Because oftentimes the jobs that our students intern in, they may pay a little bit more than a job they would just go get somewhere in the local community, because they're bringing a skill set to that job that entitles them to a greater level of pay. I used welding as an example earlier on. That's a great example of it. If they go get a job out in the community through work-based learning, they're going to get paid a whole lot more to be out there welding on a job than most routine part-time jobs that high school-age students obtain.
Yeah. And also, paying students to engage in these internships removes a key barrier to engagement for the students as well. many students can't afford to engage in a non-paid internship. And if I'm not mistaken, a large percentage of the students in Greenville County schools has a poverty indicator. So the paid component of these internships has removed a key barrier to participating.
To your point, that is a barrier, and it's a barrier faced by more than 52% of our students would be students considered to be students in poverty. So, yes, it's important to them going back to, there may be contributing at home to the family finances or maybe just to their own, but they need to have a job, and they can't take their time to have an unpaid job. It's a good point.
Burke, how can we attract more students and more businesses to engage in the LaunchGVL initiative?
Well, right now, the problem is we got this many students and this many opportunities. So actually, though we'd want to encourage all students to take advantage of it, we have more students now expressing an interest than we have places to put them. That was true of the first year of LaunchGVL, and it's still true. This past year, we had, not just in LaunchGVL, but we had 1,423 students engaged in work-based learning opportunities this past year. I would venture to say we could probably double that number. We have to have, to your point, we have to have places for them to go. One of the things that we have pushed for several years now is for our students to graduate from us college and career ready, but as evidenced by they've either got college credit or they possess an industry recognized certification or both. Last year, our students earned the equivalent of about 29,000 hours of college credit, and they earned over 10,000 certifications. In 16-17, they earned 601 certifications. So we have all these well-prepared students possessing certifications that industry needs, recognizes, and desires to have. We need places for them to go so that they can build that last step on their resume, and quite honestly, so employers can see them in a work setting. Many of the students that we place, particularly those in LaunchGVL, they end up going to work full-time for those employers. That Greenville Water System, great example. They've had a number of students over there, many of whom have continued a career with them after graduating high school because they found them to be well prepared, they possess the technical knowledge and skills, but most importantly, they've already seen them work. And they've already been a part of the culture of their employer. They're ready to go. They just need that job opening to go to.
That's great, Burke. So we talked about the LaunchGVL partnership between the Chamber and Greenville County schools, but how can the overall business community be a better and more effective partner?
This is one of the things to provide these opportunities for our students, as you noted. We often need their expertise. One of the things, and I don't know the best way to develop the partnership to address this, because it's a challenge for industry. The people that industry struggles to find, that business and industry struggle to employ, those are the very same people that we need to teach our students in those areas. So we're literally fighting over the same employees often. And of course, industry has an advantage in the pay, the compensation is greater than what we sometimes have the ability to offer. Although we recognize a person from industry as far as crediting them with experience, we credit them with their industry experience and don't start them at the entry level for teacher pay. That helps some. But understand, we're really fighting over the same types of skill sets in people that industry is looking for. And for us to train students to take those jobs, we got to have those people to teach those skills. So that's an opportunity for partnership, whether that's allowing us to have somebody on loan or perhaps provide some supplemental employment opportunity through the summer. There, I think, are ways there that we could work to strengthen our pool of teaching candidates for those positions.
Good. Thank you for sharing that, Burke. And sounds like there are opportunities to strengthen the partnership between the Chamber and Greenville County Schools. So I certainly look forward to doing that, working on that with you and your team.
We're very much appreciative of that attitude from you, Carlos, and your leadership. And the Chamber itself has been so supportive of the things that we're doing to ensure our students are ready for the next step. And in fact, that they've already taken the first step of the next step.
Thank you, Burke. So we are wrapping up. We're wrapping up, and we always like to end our podcast with this question. What advice do you have for other organizations creating their own partnerships?
I think the advice I have, make sure you told your story, you communicate your need, and that those people with whom you seek a partnership, that they understand how that partnership is beneficial to them and to you, ultimately, though, to our community. As is evidenced by the kind of partnerships that we have with the Chamber, these are all things that help build a better Greenville.
Excellent advice, Burke. Any closing thoughts before we wrap up?
No, just to express my appreciation, Carlos, for the support of the Chamber, for the opportunity to appear here today. And I hope this will generate some interest among the listeners to this podcast, that they might wish to also engage. And if they'll reach out to our office, we'll be glad to provide them the person or people to connect with to further explore those opportunities.
Thank you, Burke. One of the things that I've realized in my 8 years here in Greenville is just how important partnerships and collaboration are to the success, the growth, and the prosperity of our community. And that's never more evident than with the Chamber's partnership with Greenville County Schools. So thank you for joining us today, and thanks for all that you're doing to help us grow a greater Greenville. Also, thanks again to our generous podcast sponsors, Blue Cross Blue Shield of South Carolina, First National Bank, and Acumen IT. Thank you, listeners, for joining us today and for helping us in our efforts to grow a greater Greenville.